What happens when we die is one of the oldest and most mysterious questions humanity has ever asked. From a scientific point of view, death occurs when the body stops functioning, the brain shuts down, and consciousness fades, while our atoms and energy return to nature and continue in other forms. Yet for many people, this explanation feels incomplete. Religions across the world teach that death is not the end, but a transition. Christianity, Islam, and Judaism describe a soul that survives death and faces judgment, where actions in life determine reward or punishment. Hinduism and Buddhism speak of reincarnation and rebirth, guided by karma, where each life is part of a longer journey of learning and spiritual growth. Pagan and spiritual traditions often see death as transformation, where the soul returns to nature, joins ancestors, or becomes part of a greater cosmic cycle. Philosophers, on the other hand, suggest that death may simply be nothingness, a return to the same state we were in before birth, without pain, fear, or awareness. Adding to the mystery, many people who have had near-death experiences report feelings of peace, tunnels of light, life reviews, and a sense of deep love and connection, raising questions about whether consciousness can exist beyond the physical body. Ancient civilizations, including Ethiopian traditions, honored ancestors and believed the spirit continues in another realm, watching over the living. While science cannot yet prove what happens after death, it reminds us that energy is never destroyed, only transformed, leading some to wonder whether consciousness follows a similar rule. Ultimately, whether death is an ending, a doorway, or a transformation, the uncertainty itself encourages reflection. It reminds us that life is fragile, meaningful, and shaped by our choices, and that even if we never know what truly comes after, how we live now may be the most important answer of all. Throughout history, humans have created rituals around death, not only to honor the departed, but to help the living cope with loss and uncertainty. Funerals, mourning practices, and remembrance ceremonies exist in every culture, suggesting that death is not just a biological event, but a deeply emotional and social one. These traditions give structure to grief and offer comfort, reinforcing the idea that a person's influence does not vanish instantly, but continues through memory, love, and shared stories. The fear of death often shapes how people live their lives, sometimes leading to anxiety, denial, or a desperate search for certainty. Yet for others, accepting the inevitability of death brings clarity and purpose. When life is understood as temporary, moments become more valuable, relationships more meaningful, and choices more intentional. Rather than diminishing life, the awareness of death can sharpen our sense of responsibility, encouraging compassion, courage, and a deeper appreciation for the present moment. What happens after death is one of humanity's most profound questions, and the answer depends entirely on the lens through which you look: biological, neurological, or spiritual. 1. The biological process, the body. Biologically, death is a transition from a single living organism to a mini ecosystem. Forensic scientists generally break this down into 5 stages. Fresh, 0 to 3 days. Immediately after the heart stops, autolysis, self-digestion begins. Without oxygen, carbon dioxide builds up, making cells acidic. Enzymes then begin to digest cell membranes from the inside out. Algor mortis, the body cools to match the ambient temperature. Rigor mortis, muscles stiffen due to a lack of ATP, energy. Livor mortis, blood settles in the lowest parts of the body due to gravity. What happens after death is one of humanity's most profound questions, and the answer depends entirely on the lens through which you look: biological, neurological, or spiritual. 1. The biological process, the body. Biologically, death is a transition from a single living organism to a mini ecosystem. Forensic scientists generally break this down into 5 stages. Fresh, 0 to 3 days. Immediately after the heart stops, autolysis, self-digestion begins. Without oxygen, carbon dioxide builds up, making cells acidic. Enzymes then begin to digest cell membranes from the inside out. Algor mortis, the body cools to match the ambient temperature. Rigor mortis, muscles stiffen due to a lack of ATP, energy. Livor mortis, blood settles in the lowest parts of the body due to gravity. The neurological perspective, the mind. Scientists have studied what happens to the brain during the gray zone, the moments between clinical death, heart stops, and biological death, brain cells die. Brain activity spikes. Recent studies of dying patients have shown surges of high-frequency brain activity, gamma waves, after the heart stops. This suggests the brain may be capable of complex internal activity, like memory recall or dreaming, even when it appears off. The death cocktail. As the brain starves for oxygen, it may release a flood of neurochemicals, including dopamine and serotonin. This could explain why many people who survive near-death experiences, NDEs, report feelings of extreme peace, euphoria, or seeing a life review. Free. Philosophical and religious views. Since science can only track what happens to the physical body, the question of where we go is addressed by faith and philosophy. Belief system, perspective on afterlife. Monotheistic, Christianity, Islam, Judaism. Belief in a soul that moves to a different realm, heaven, hell, or a waiting state, based on faith or deeds. Dharmic, Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism. Belief in reincarnation. The soul or consciousness is reborn into a new body based on karma. Materialism, atheism. The belief that consciousness is a product of the brain. When the brain dies, the self simply ceases to exist, much like before you were born. Pancosmosism, naturalism. The idea that our atoms return to the universe to become part of new life. Stars, plants, other people. The big mystery. While we understand the physical decay and the chemical shifts in the brain, the hard problem of consciousness remains. We don't yet know if the you that experiences life is tied strictly to those neurons, or if it exists in a way science cannot yet measure. Would you like to dive deeper into the science of near-death experiences, NDEs, or perhaps explore how different cultures honor the dead? In the end, the question of what happens after we die may never have a final answer. Science continues to explore the boundaries of consciousness. Religion offers frameworks of meaning, and philosophy challenges us to sit with uncertainty. What remains clear is that death gives life its urgency and depth. Whether we believe in an afterlife, reincarnation, or nothingness, the mystery itself invites us to live with intention, to act with kindness, and to leave behind something meaningful in the brief time we are given.